All right, welcome everyone to our second budget workshop. And on today's agenda, third. Thank you.
Green.
I did miss one. Oh, are you?
Oh, this is number one at the top.
The one at the very, the 101?
I just
Yeah,
saw it.
counting that.
Oh,
I was
I put a 3
Oh,
on it.
I wasn't counting that one.
It's confusing.
Our second presentation from department heads, our third budget workshop. And today we're going to be covering the Public Works budget, City Hall as well. And so first up for discussion is the Public Works Department budget presentation from Public Works Director Greg Tate.
Mayor,
Thank you, Mr. Tate.
Now you're ready.
Okay. Oh, okay. Everybody hang on. Let me remind everyone, since Mr. Grant may be a little bit late, that the budget certification process is still in play, with one more workshop number 4 being next week on the 30th. And what is it, one YouTube video that you can watch, I think is what he allowed for. So don't forget that. Claim your prize at the end of this process if you're watching on YouTube. I've prepared a binder and placed up there for each commissioner to have their own copy. Let me also start by saying I'm going to try to piece this together. As most of you are aware, Leslie Johnson will not be available tonight to present her piece, but I have her slides and her budget. And, you know, some of you may be sitting there thinking, wait a minute, what's Leslie got? But we'll get into that. It's a story that's going to unfold over the next few minutes, and hopefully I won't be too long. But if you'll turn in your books to tab 1, and then we'll get to the slides in just a moment. But you turn in your books to tab 1. This is a plan that I put together, and I shared it with the city manager on some of the activities that the Public Works Department intends to complete, conduct, or dive into in this next budget year. Some of the introduction streets division has changed. If you'll see there, I've got streets division proposed projects and plans. One of those is hiring an engineering technician, an operations foreman, and the operations foreman I took out of the budget that you had before you. It's not included in the budget, but the engineering technician is still included in those figures.
Where are we at?
Tab 1.
Okay. All right.
And you'll see in blue there, I have some plans. And I tried to hyperlink the plans up here so we could pull them up and look at them, but there's a disconnect between that and the board and my files. So if you'll just bear with me, I'll go over these, and you can we can have some one-on-ones when you come by City Hall, and I can show you the plans. There's a street striping plan that's included in this budget. There's a guardrail replacement project that's included. There is a plan for crosswalk improvements at some of the most busiest intersections. And then there's some sidewalk connectivity projects. We're going to focus on a concentration on beautification at the city's entrances, improve traffic control signs across the city, partnering with Tennessee 811 for notification of potential street cuts, which is something we've not done in the past, but they have a system that notifies us, or will notify us if somebody requests to locate. They will notify us that someone is intended to do a street cut or cut in the right of way. And
Can you elaborate on that?
well, before you dig,
Please.
there's the slogan that you see on TV and on signs that says "Call before you dig," and that's 10-811. You can call 811 and get a live person and tell them that you plan to dig. Well, contractors do this on a regular basis, and you're required to do it, especially if you're digging in the right of way around public utilities. And
You're
then
putting in fence posts. If you're digging for your mailbox, you need to call.
Plant a tree.
or as in, Tennessee American is replacing the line that runs across the road. They have to call and have the utilities located, and that's where the markings that you see on the ground in the different colors come from. And we can be a member of that and be notified if somebody requests to locate to cut into our road. And we've never done that in the past. What's happened is they come on Saturday, cut the road up, and then 2 weeks later, the resident there is complaining about a pothole. But now we'll get notifications by email that, this contractor or this public utility is cutting the road. So that's something else we're going to endeavor to increase our service delivery this year. We're also, with the engineer technician, we're also looking to utilize those services for our pavement conditioning, sign management, and other processes, mainly centered around our hour capabilities going forward. Parks, trails, and recreations. Right now, we'll discuss this as we get on into the budget. Hiring a part-time employee to manage the new adult Red Bank Active Older Adults program that the city has taken on. Jeffrey's managing this by himself, but it's becoming a full load for him to do Food Truck Fridays and the other activities, and then manage the seniors 3 days a week, helping them with programming and stuff like that. Of course, the standard things, the Jubilee, the Christmas parade. Next year will be the city's 70th anniversary. And so we're going to start probably in June this year, getting ready for June of next year for the city's 70th anniversary, and have a big show. Food Truck Fridays, movies in the park, movies at White Oak Park, mini farmers market. You can see the activities there that Jeffrey is working to put on for the city. Facilities management, I'm not going to go into every one of these, but you can see the list of items that Justin Hedrick is working on right now. And I don't know if you noticed when you came in, but there's a push button on the door. So you push the button. It's a little bit slower than I thought it was going to be, but you can push the door, and if you're patient, it will open on its own.
Has the one been installed at City Hall yet?
They're working on it. They something about a part got misordered, so they're coming back tomorrow to finish it, but it won't be finished tomorrow if they show back up.
Excellent.
But that among other things. The solid waste division, as we get into the budget for that, we're just talking continuing our excellent service delivery, but we're also talking about adding some features to our solid waste service delivery. And a couple of those are going to be waste oil recovery for residential properties and antifreeze. And then we're going to continue the tire collection, make that a permanent fixture on our iWorks website. So anyone that has tires to be disposed of, they can go into iWork, put a work order in. And of course, things like pumpkins for pigs and, those things, we're going to make those part of our regular service delivery to our residents in the solid waste division. Stormwater division, when I first came here, we had 2 people working in stormwater. And the first year I was here, after the first year I was here, we had to take one of those out because stormwater couldn't afford the cost of 2 full-time personnel. And with our stormwater fee increases, and we've hired 2 additional stormwater personnel. Now we have a heavy equipment operator and 2 stormwater specialists. And the stormwater fund those guys are knocking it out of the park every day. Right there's one of them. They're, sweeping, cleaning out catch basins. I mean, you can literally look around the city and see the effects of the work that they've been doing. And then Barge continues to feed us work orders. So I look for big things to come out of stormwater. We've not even had our first full year of stormwater operations at the level they are right now. And it's already, in my opinion, it's already making big changes in what we see from day to day. The fleet division, no big changes coming up in the fleet division. We're just looking to maintain our current level of services and possibly, be able to contract out some of those services in the future. And the State Street Aid budget. This year's State Street Aid budget, when you look at it here in just a few minutes, your eyes may get real big because, we've talked about State Street Aid for months and years. And, I don't know how many times that you've heard me get up here and, somebody on the commission said, how are we going to pay for that? And I've said State Street Aid. But there's money that sits there from year to year in State Street Aid. Some of it's allocated, a lot of it's not. So we're going to up our game in State Street Aid. And that's where the striping plan and the guardrail plan and the sign improvement plan comes into play. So we'll probably be spending a little bit more money out of State Street Aid without breaking the bank this year. So having said that, you'll turn over to tab 2. The following pages just kind of mirror the slides, and you can see the departments or the divisions that are covered in the Public Works Department: streets, solid waste, storm, facilities, fleet, parks, trails, recreation, State Street Aid. Okay. And what's new for 24 and 25 is a new way of doing business, as I discussed the new plans. And you're welcome to you're welcome to come and, stop by the office and I'll show you some binders, a binder set that I started. Those binders we pass back and forth between myself and Michael Pham. He'll be involved in some of these projects, and Ricky Reeves as well. And then a new department. So we'll talk about a new department in just a few minutes, but you also see under a new department, new personnel and new programs. And then this is just the budget. Now, if you want to turn over to tab 3 and look at it, everything
It's
behind it.
in the over 40
It's
font.
in the over 40 font.
That's it.
And I'll just throw through these and then we'll just go and do a page turn. But that's everything that is in your binder in the over 40 font. All right, so Public Works. There's no real big changes in Public Works this year. If you look, my personnel budget is slightly lower than it was last year.
Is that the end of the?
It-
There we go.
Sorry, I didn't mean to scroll all over this.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Is that because, and why is that?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
I gotta keep you in this. I gotta keep you in suspense just for a minute. But you'll see that budget is significantly lower than it was last year. And then the same thing in operations. If you look down there, my proposed budget, $356,299, is significantly lower than last year. There again, new department, different budget. And then the only big expense that I have in capital improvements or capital this year is $38,000 or $35,000 on line 942, machinery and equipment, and that is for new radios. We run into some issues during the January snow event. We have an old set of radios that have been hand-me-downs in the past. The technology is older. It's harder to get parts. I ordered batteries for them a couple of years ago, and the batteries that we got in weren't just exactly the same, and some of them didn't fit. So, you know, we realize that we really need some radios, some new radios for our guys that are out, especially, you know, salted roads and things like that.
Are these truck mounted radios?
That's what I'm planning to put a mixture of truck mounted. My solid waste and street department supervisors went and looked at some radios. They're compatible with the fire and police and what the county uses. They'll be on the same county system. We'll be able to talk to Saudi Daisy. I've already given them permission to program our radio frequencies into their radios so that we can talk in the event of a disaster. We can talk across the county network. But it's a mixture of truck mounted radios that have removable hand mics. It's similar to Bluetooth technology. As long as you're within 100 feet of the truck, you can use the hand mic to talk and listen. And then the brush trucks will have external radios mounted on the back of the cab. So when the driver's out of the truck, he's got a speaker mounted back here, an external speaker, so that he can be contacted if he's operating the truck. But that'll be in the solid waste department. All right, moving right along. This slide here covers the fleet maintenance. And if you'll look, there's only about a $4,000 difference in last year's budget and this year's budget. It pretty much stayed the same. We did cut it a little bit on some lines as such as small equipment due to the fact that we had to buy some specialty software updates for our scan tools that the fleet guys use in the shop. And so, you know, that budget right there, the biggest change to that budget is personnel. Yes, sir.
So we got 2 people in the shop over there. That's their salaries,
Yes,
right? How many pieces of equipment they got over there?
Oh, gosh. About, I think last count was about 88.
Rolling stock. And that's not including the stuff like the hot patcher, the
Right.
pavement things, the
Weed eater.
the weed eaters, the thermoplast machine, all right,
Yeah, that's police
Rolling
cars,
stock.
public works vehicles, fire engines, and
okay.
garbage trucks. But we are doing some more outsourcing to keep the demand down. We've got some good arrangements with some local companies, you know, do front end alignments, tire replacement and oil changes. and so forth. So Randy and Adam are doing a fantastic job, keeping the fleet going. Sometimes we hit a snag with just two of them, when it requires more of their time, but they still do a fantastic job.
Where would that line be on the outsourcing of the?
It's paid out for 261. Well, on the public works and the solid waste budget is paid out of 261 vehicle maintenance and repairs.
Okay.
And then the stormwater is paid out of 332, which is the same line, it's just a different set.
And that's for the outsourcing?
Well, that's just for all the maintenance and repairs.
Okay.
All right, any questions on the fleet? Any other questions?
I do have some questions from earlier
Okay,
on.
I'm sorry.
In the streets division, you said you have some presentations for some of these improvement plans.
Yes, sir.
I was just curious whether the crosswalk improvement plan included the Morrison Street slip lane.
Yes, it does.
It does.
It does.
Excellent.
I sent one of our guys to a traffic safety expo in Murfreesboro last year, and they brought back some good information about some new technologies and solar powered. And so Ricky Reeves and I have talked, and we've got a plan. We're going to look to outfit all of our crosswalks with advanced warning lighting, in addition to what's already there. But it will all be synchronized. So if somebody gets in the crosswalk here, there'll be something going off 150 feet
Further
down the
down.
road. And there's some other ideas for some options. But right now we've got Morrison Springs, Ashland Terrace, all 5 of the pet islands, and I think there's 6 total that we're looking to upfit
Okay,
this year.
glad to hear it. Regarding the sidewalk connectivity project, do you know if that includes any project to connect at Greenleaf Street
Yes,
by the AutoZone?
it does. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Excellent.
That's one of our. It's Greenleaf, Browntown to city limits. A new intersection at Red Bank High School, because there's sidewalks on one side, there's not the other side. And every morning when I come in, there's kids walking down the grassy side, crossing at the traffic signal.
Well, especially
so-
with the new apartment that just went in across the
Yes,
street.
and that's going to make it even worse. And it also includes a little stretch. There's a stretch there that they didn't connect the sidewalks from Chattanooga to Red Bank. Well, it's all in our right of way, but they stopped at their property line.
Right.
Didn't do this extra 60 feet here. So it includes that, but it takes it all the way up to the bridge at Mount Creek. And that way, hopefully it'll give Chattanooga some influence to connect the sidewalk to Mount Creek Road.
Excellent. Thank
And
you.
let's see that. And then a crossing at Memorial from Easton Avenue to allow people to safely pass on Memorial Drive. And then, of course, we just received, yesterday, we received bids for the Stringers Ridge Connector Trail pedestrian crossing. So we'll be going through those and making a decision. Be bringing that to you probably in a couple weeks. Yes.
At Laura.
Memorial?
Yeah.
Yep. I mentioned that, yes.
I think you said Easton.
Oh, did I say Easton?
I think you did.
Yeah, that's-
That's why I was like,
I was
I think
looking
he's
at you
talking
on
about
that.
Ashmore, but
Oh,
yeah.
I'm not sure what I said now.
Ashmore Memorial.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for
Okay.
the detail.
Any more questions?
So the grand total, is this all departments here for Public Works, or is that a new department also there?
This is,
Where it says grand total Public Works Department on the last page?
that is for Public Works, Fleet, and Facilities maintenance. It doesn't include parks. And the rest of it is separate fund.
Street aid,
That's separate fund.
beautification in this part?
Well, it'll be a combination of state, the street department and state street aid. But for tax purposes and general fund purposes, the $2,274,000 is Public Works Streets Division, Fleet Maintenance, Facilities Maintenance, and what did I forget? Fleet Facilities and Public Works. Yeah, that's right.
Because I mean, these savings have passed right along right here on the salaries right here to this bottom line, correct?
Right.
We hadn't looked at the new department,
We haven't looked at the new
the
department.
surprise, the yet to
But
be
it's not
revealed.
gonna be as big a surprise as you think it is.
Okay.
Parks and Recreation. Now, Parks and Recreation is a little surprising. And let me tell you, well, let's go. We've got another facilities management. Now, that is an eye popper. When you look at the bottom line, 421,000 last year versus 952.
It's amazing how much it costs when you know what's wrong.
Exactly. But what has raised this salary up so high is we have taken every utility expense that the city owns, whether it's fire, police, public works, parks, impound lot, all of those. We've taken all of those and rolled them up into facilities management. And that way, Kate and Justin and myself will be able to monitor those and be able to see from month to month what the bills are. I was surprised that, there's a facility that goes along and has a $68 bill and a $68 bill, and a $68 bill, and a $450 bill. And, we didn't really have terrible weather. So that alerts us to something. And having that ability now to monitor all of the expenses on the utilities will help us, gauge those. Yes, ma'am.
And that's Justin Hedrick over the facilities management.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And he's the only employee on that department.
He is. I had originally advocated for a laborer to help him. There's a lot of tedious work that he stops and does that he could be over here working on, sidewalk connections or something like that. But he stops every now and then and goes and puts the cost on. But we're balancing that out as the department, grows. We're balancing that out with some contract labor. He's got a couple of dependable contractors that he can call on to get some work done. And the facilities maintenance itself, line 269, 266 on most budgets, is the day-to-day, everyday maintenance of the buildings. And so that's rolled up into a rather large number there, $80,000.
Did you, since every department's utility bills got rolled over to facilities, did you all budget any extra?
Yes, ma'am.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know about what that
Well,
was?
Just about everything is extra. You can look,
It's hard to compare.
starting with the electric, every one of those has some inflation planned in it. Not necessarily because the price of a kilowatt went up, but we just didn't know how much, the fire department was paying, or we didn't know how much, each individual part, now that we've got it all rolled up together. I mean, Kate pays them all, but it was never our focus. And now we've made it a focus to stay on top of that.
And that's for all the buildings.
Yes, ma'am. Everything that has water, electricity, sewer, or gas,
Thank you.
and telephone. Telephone. The next line, 245, telephone and other communication services. That includes all fiber optic service and all VoIP phones, like we have in all of our buildings now. It includes all of that is rolled up into the telephone and other communication services.
It's not radios and cell
Chief
phones.
Siler's help, we realize we may be getting robbed on a few of them, not because they're overcharging us, but we bought a package for this department and a package for this department. But this one here is getting all these extra services and this one's not. So we're gonna find out about that.
I was going to ask about the radios, because I recall we have bought radios for the other departments recently.
Yes, ma'am.
Have those been surplused? Is hand-me-downs an option in this scenario, or
I don't know what.
are they already so out of date that it's not worth bothering with?
We actually, y'all gave ours to
Another fire
across the
department.
county.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
And that's what's happened in the past, it's my understanding, every so many years, Public Works will get the hand-me-downs, and then, we keep them. We've had the same radios that we had when I started here 10 years ago, and they were old when I started. And that's why, you buy batteries for them now, and the batteries are similar, but they're not exact, or they're not manufacturer specs or something. They're aftermarkets, and getting mics and cords and things like that for them. They're kind of like computers. After a while, they just get obsolete.
Y'all done a really good job making the most out of really, really old, outdated equipment.
Yes.
Thank you.
Some of those, like the 4,000s we gave you, or those all gold?
Well, we still got the 4,000 of last 6 or whatever you guys a couple of years ago. Yeah, that's what we're using right now.
What's the different overhead differences between the radios we've purchased recently for the fire and police and these? Are they gonna be that emergency enabled type or?
No, ma'am. Well, they can be. They can be. They have, I don't, what's that, there's a service that we have to pay for. We were, the cost is, that's cheap.
The majority of costs, on radios is the programming. The base of the actual cost of the radio itself is about the same. But as you add things on, they become more costly. In the fire department world, they have to have a different case and different knobs and then different ratings, so their cost goes up. In our world, we have to have certain things that are encrypted and all that increases several $100s. So radios are not cheap for sure. And so their radios won't cost, my handhelds cost about $7,000. Theirs won't cost that much.
Mine's about 4,500. And there will be, I think I've got 4 that will have some emergency channel programming in order that we can participate in the Hamilton County Hazard Mitigation Program.
Well, that was my question. Is that I recall from the recording of the fire and police presentation, we talked a little bit about the AT&T outage and that their new radios would be able to operate in that, or were able to operate in that situation. So that's why I was curious whether yours radios would also similarly be operating in that situation or not.
They should be. They'll be working off the same repeaters and transmitters. They just won't have the specialized programming in all of them, except for a couple, maybe 4, so that we can, if there's a natural disaster, that we'd be able to jump in with Saudi Daisy or Collegedale or somebody and be part of that Hamilton County Hazard Mitigation Program.
Okay, thank you.
Did you say how many radios?
Did I don't,
miss that?
it's not many. It's about 8 for each department.
Oh, okay.
I'm outfitting, I'm doing a combination of like the brush trucks and garbage trucks will have dash mounted radios with hand mics that they can carry and use. And then the supervisors will have a radio that they, carry in buildings and places with them. And then, like backhoe operators, they'll just have a handheld radio that they can set their cup holder while they're on the back of their backhoe operator. So it'd be a combination, but it's about 8 for each department.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions about facilities management? All right. Parks and Recreation. New department. I had asked last year that we separate parks personnel when we hired Jeffrey Gravy and put him in the Parks Division. And we did that this year. And if you look at 4,400 Parks and Recreation, you'll see his personnel, his salary lines there. The operations for most of the parks have been consolidated in 4,400 or in facilities management. Now you'll see, as we go through this, you'll see that I still have some expenses budgeted in some parks, but they're for abnormal expenses like a new cover for the swimming pool. That's not something that you do, but every 8 or 10 years. And so I left that there to show the expense for the swimming pool instead of just dumping $30,000 into facilities management. No accountability. But Parks and Recreation, Jeffrey has presented me a budget for the events that we put on, Food Truck Fridays, musical entertainment, the upcoming movies in the parks, movies in the community center. And you can see his budget there. Overall, the parks budget, I think the parks budget is about $24,000 higher than last year. But again, last year we had the new playground and we had some, the tennis courts and all that. That went on to a loan to a debt service that actually went to facilities management. That's where that cost came out of for that debt service. This right here just represents an increase in the special events and supplies. And, it costs money to send out mailers and put up banners and things like that.
Or have movies in the park.
Or have movies in the park. And Jeffrey does a fantastic job. You know, he comes to me and asks me questions all the time. You know, I can do this and I can get this movie. Do we want to rent it or do we want to buy it? You know, and we talk about these things, you know, what's the effect going to be after we buy it? You know, is it going to get lost? You know, do we just have it out there where we can rent it from Amazon Prime whenever we got a license to show it? So, you know, those kind of things, but that's what his additional expenses are. You can look,
Craig,
yes, ma'am.
just really quick on the 114, the part-time,
Uh,
is that Beth?
No, that is a proposed, part-time person
Okay.
to help with the,
Oh,
senior adult
the
program.
older senior adults. Okay. Aging,
Red Bank.
older adults,
older-
active older adults.
Yes.
There it is.
That's
Okay.
not- That's not a combination of letters that make it easy to pronounce. acronym.
Formerly known as Seniors on the Go.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
And you can look, following on Red Bank Community Center, you know, it merely has a $3,000 budget, and that's for supplies, because all of its expenses are wrapped up in facilities management.
Well, the tennis courts, they just kind of stand alone with their electricity and such.
That's wrapped up in, facilities management.
Okay.
So
Okay.
all you,
Okay, that's what it was last year, just nothing there.
Right.
What's the 10 grand for?
The 10 grand is, for, to hire a contractor to come in and, pressure wash and stain and seal the wooden playground at Kids Corner. We did that, it's been a couple years now.
Okay.
We just felt like it's something we need to do every 2 or 3 years to keep it. And that's why I left some of those things in those budgets, you know, so that you would ask those questions, because those are specific every third year purchases.
It's not just lumped in facilities.
Right. Yeah, just in a great pool of funds. Reading Road facilities at $12,000. Norman Cagle Field, we don't spend a lot of money at Norman Cagle Field. There was an issue that came up. There may be some lights we have to change out, but we generally don't spend any maintenance money on the James Avenue ball fields. Morrison Springs facilities. We have nothing budgeted there this year except for site development. If you look down 912, there's $5,000 there. They had a small set of bleachers, 2 small sets of bleachers. They were wooden and angle iron. They had sharp edges. They were rusted. Wood was splintering, and the girls' softball association asked us to remove them, and then they asked us to replace them. So we removed them, and Justin found a set of bleachers that we can buy from Uline. They've got safety handles on them. They've got safety treads on them, and it's just 2 small sets. We put one on each side because that ball field doesn't get probably hardly any activity. But for $5,000, we can replace those bleachers and have something there for parents to sit if it does get used. So that's why that $5,000 alone is in that account for Morrison Springs facilities. And then let's see. Okay, swimming pool is kind of down at the bottom of this one, top of this one. You can see contractual services, 25,000. I may give you some bad information. I don't think that 25,000 is supposed to be there. It's supposed to be 30,000 there in repair and maintenance for new swimming pool cover. The one that we're getting ready to take off, it's been chewed up by rats, full of holes. It's brittle.
Yeah.
It's just time to change. It's been there since 2016, I think. So it's time to change. Yeah, I have to go back and double check that because I don't recall.
So that's not, they run the pool by themselves,
They
right?
do.
Right,
Yes.
that's fee based.
We do some maintenance on it
Right,
occasionally,
right.
you know, toilet or sink or something like that. But most of the expense they bear themselves.
Where do you order the pool cover?
Well, I've got the guy that refitted. I think it's Great American Pools.
Oh, okay.
So it's the last company that did the refurbishing on it. He gave us the best quote, and I've asked him to quote it again. We paid $23,000 for it 8 years ago. So I'm expecting it to be more, but I'm still waiting. He came yesterday, he came and measured it so he could give me an accurate price. But I put $30,000 in there because it just may be that.
I hope he ain't watching me.
I'll be,
Yeah.
I can tell you for certain, he's not watching.
All
All right, White Oak Park, we don't have very much in there in expenses, contractual services, and site development, the two biggest things. And there's 20,000 in there for each. And that $20,000 or $40,000 total is, for us to take a look at revamping the dog park. The contractual services, 20,000 is to, look at hiring a contractor or a consultant that can come in and tell us what we need to do, give us some design ideas. And then the other $20,000 for site development would literally be construction money, to implement some of the changes that we need to do to dress that dog park up. And I think about everybody would appreciate that.
Well, it was our most popular park facility until we built those pickleball courts.
It was,
Now
you're
it's
right.
probably second, but it's still up there. It hasn't gotten any less popular.
No,
And then we got all those, the people who's gonna be living right across the street from it.
Oh, that's
We'll be-
true.
You know,
It'll
we're
be-
gonna have 200 something families right there.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's gonna be a dog or two.
With their dogs cooped up in their apartments, they're gonna wanna go and run. For sure.
So,
and then the last thing in the Parks and Recreation Division is the Town Center Park, the clock. That $750, we can put that in there because that's usually what it costs. I've had to have it worked on twice since I've been here, and it's cost $748 every time. I don't know if somebody just knew how much money we had there. But you know,
they must have been watching.
Yeah, they were watching.
But it's just one of those things, you know, we may not spend it this year, but we may need it next year. And, but that's, throwing it a little love there.
Greg, I have a question, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
On the Marson Springs, is that encapsulating also the baseball fields and the boxing building? Or does that go to facilities?
That goes to facilities.
Okay,
That goes, just the, peculiar items for like swimming pool cover. Those are the only kind of items I put in those budgets. Everything else, utilities, gas, water, sewer,
that's,
electricity goes to facilities maintenance.
thank you.
Who's in charge of monitoring all that? Is that just,
And yeah, 25% cake. Yeah. Okay, solid waste, moving right along. Not a lot of changes in solid waste. Everything's pretty much just staying the
I
same.
got 3 days before solid waste.
Yeah.
I need to redo it.
Let me just, jump right there. We'll just jump on Stage 3A. Fuel tax funds. We're limited on what we can do. There's some things we can't do. One thing we can't do is we can't pay for Tracy to have a take-home car. It literally says that in the rules, that you cannot use those funds to purchase your security recorder or a take-home car.
I guess somebody did it.
Apparently so, otherwise it would have never been
Right.
done. But you know, we can use it for street lighting, we can use it for signalization, we can use it for signage, we can use it for paving, we can use it for sidewalks, you know, anything that has to do with the roads or transportation, we can pretty much use it for that. And that's what's going to fund the biggest part, our guardrail replacement. If you'll look up contractual services, I've got 190,000 budgeted up there. About 170,000 of that is guardrail replacement that we have been needing for at least a decade. There's guardrails all over the place that are smashed or the end treatments are damaged, and you know, they just need some love and attention. And Rick went around and got me an inventory list, and then he got with a local guardrail company that we use. About the only one we get to come to Red Bank. There's no local people that do this kind of work. They're from Nashville or Knoxville or North Carolina. But then he got some estimates, and for $170,000, they can replace just about all of our guardrails that are damaged. Yeah, there's some like, I don't know if you noticed when you're going north on the boulevard, right there across from Martin Road, you've got that guardrail that runs through there, and then there's a new section that's slightly raised up. Well, the reason it's raised up is because the part that got damaged by a vehicle and they replaced, they put it into standards, current standards. All the rest of it's substandard, it's too low. So it will replace all of that and make it, you know, conforming.
Well,
It you know, it was legal at the time. It's still, you know, kind of like what they say in zoning, legal, non-conforming. But, you know, we know we need to do better.
I was gonna ask if the design is different or the materials
In some cases.
Okay,
And so most of the guardrail we have around here is a W pattern. And that's the most common, but there are some old, some side roads and things that are obsolete material. May not necessarily be damaged, but Rick gave me a good comprehensive list of what we need. And that's what the bill's gonna be, is about $170,000. Then I got a little extra in there for some other contractual services. The electric on 241, that is the light bill that we pay for streetlights.
Now, and when you say street lights, this is all of the lights that are on the poles that are daisy chained up and down through
Yes,
there? So we own those?
We own those.
Okay.
We own those through EPB. EPB maintains them with this $87,000 annual bill we pay. They maintain them as part of an agreement.
Right.
We pay for the usage, and the usage also includes, they call it Aaron used to call it a plant account, is what he used to call it. But every one of those lights has a value on it. When it was put up, they prorated it over, a 20-year lifespan at like $7.11.
Mhm.
And that's what they charge us. And that includes the electricity.
That's
that
what they
includes-
charge me for my street light.
Is it?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but though, I also got to replace with an LED light too.
Right.
So what do we need? And explain to me why the 50 grand for the life maintenance, if they maintain their lights, their street lights, or
Okay,
is this?
that is for our sidewalk lights.
Okay.
That's the
All right.
decorative sidewalk lights. Those are ours.
Okay. Those live a rough life.
They do. Very
Yeah,
much.
they do. They have a
Now,
hard
what
life.
we did is when we had the ones put up at Hartman Hill, we went into an agreement with EPB. We dug the trench and laid the conduit and all that, and EPB provided the lights and come and hooked them up.
Okay.
And then they're charging us, I think it's $10.11 a month usage on those. That's everything. It's electricity, that's maintenance. Those belong to EPB, but the rest of the lights on the sidewalk
Okay.
in our city and in the parks belong to the city of Red Bank.
So if those get hit by a car in front of Hartman Hill, EPB comes and
EPB,
replaces
yes,
it
ma'am.
for us, as
Yes,
opposed to the rest of Dayton Boulevard, the decorative lights.
Right.
If they were damaged, when they're damaged, we replace them ourselves.
Well, I bought one of them.
And you said it's about how much per light?
Right now, it's about $4,200 per light.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's everything to like the one that got hit in that wreck on
Yes.
Dayton
Well,
Boulevard.
it
at Morrison's
depends.
place?
If the J bolts that are in the concrete are still straight, $4,200. If they have to go in there and dig it up, pour concrete, put new bolts, mount new bolts, then there's a little, probably $500, $600, $700 difference that we have to pay. But it's kind of on a case by case basis. Most of them survive because when they get hit, they're so brittle, they just snap off it, leave the base sticking up. And, but yeah, $4,200, they were about $2,600 when I started here. And I just signed a PO for a couple last week for Justin, and they were $4,200 to replace. And we don't always find out who did it. If the police do a report, then we can claim the insurance, and, Tracy works that end of it. But, if it's a hit and run and nobody witnessed it, we're just out.
Tracy putting on another one.
She's
of her
putting on
hats.
another hat. Yeah. Her insurance claim filing hat.
The guard, we've had a discussion about there being some decorative street lighting in front of the current Save-A-Lot site when that's redeveloped. Do you know if those are intended to be city-owned or EPB, like Hartman Hills?
I do not. If they're going to be in our right of way, they would be city or EPB. But if they plan to put them up on the parking lot, I think.
I think we're talking about the front along the sidewalk, like Hartman Hill.
Okay, yeah, if that's the case, then that would be up to us to work with the developer to have those put in and then enter a contract with EPB.
Okay.
For services.
Thank you.
Did you already go over line 255?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I was getting ready to
Okay.
hit that one next.
Just making sure I didn't miss something.
No, engineering services. Last year, we had $50,000 in there, and that's for just miscellaneous transportation and multimodal consulting. We have our two consultants on board, Bart's Design and Volker Engineering, and that would be monies that would be used to do, well, in fact, I just asked Bart's to do give me a price estimate on doing a scope of work for the sidewalk connectivity from Browntown to the city limits. Trying to get that started in conjunction with the restriping and paving that's going to be taking place up there. And, they'll be working on coming up with a scope of work. And the scope of work that they'll provide us if we choose to go forward with it, they'll provide us a scope of work that will have all the details that we will need to either apply for a TDOT grant or fund it ourselves, and do our own construction. So, that's what that money is used for. And, well, and there was a little bit of money in public works, public works that would help offset those for other activities that we choose to get into. But that's what that is, engineering services for hiring consultants.
That would be too like where the safety study for the Morrison Springs Dayton
Yes.
Boulevard intersection would come
Yes.
from, those funds would come from there?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, signal lights repair and maintenance, yes. Oh,
Yeah, so on the engineering services, what about the traffic study that that's not in this, is it? The traffic study that I think we got a grant for.
The urban transportation planning
Yeah,
grant.
yeah, that was, no, so that's not part of this.
Okay.
That was paid for wholly by TDOT.
Okay, all right.
Are you talking about the further traffic study that we needed
Yeah.
to do on like the secondary roads, I think? to
Yeah,
figure out about-
we was gonna get a total traffic study on the whole boulevard.
Well, that is part of, when Leslie, brought you the resolution to enter into an agreement with Volker and
Right.
Marge, that was for on-call services, and that's what this money would pay for, is on-call services.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's other monies out there that can be, put on the on-call services, depending on, what we're actually looking for.
Mhm.
Thank you for the interpretation for the rest of the vice mayor. I appreciate
I
it.
was thinking about it too.
Okay, the signal repairs, that's.
Signal lights repair and maintenance. Now, we always budget some money to repair the traffic signals. I know most of you know that here about 3 weeks ago, we had a traffic light fell on Morrison Springs Road, one of the brand new ones that was put up. It just turned loose and fell. And that's where this money covers that. But I put 50,000 in there this year to also, part of that 50,000 was to take a look at the ped crossings. And that money goes along with other monies for pedestrian crossing upgrades and signal upgrades. Thank you. Thank you. But from time to time, we do have the occasional driver that likes to run through a traffic control box, and those things are expensive to replace, and you have to call NAPCO in the middle of the night to get them put in service. But that's what that pays for. And then supplies, just general supplies, anything we need, the hardware, post. We've got 342 right below that, street signs. I put $60,000 in there, which is a large increase from the previous 2 years. We have lots of street signs. In 2013, the city did a wholesale swap out of street signs in order to meet federal reflectivity standards. And we supposedly, we had till 2015, I believe it was, to come into compliance to meet federal reflectivity standards. And so the city bought all new signs everywhere, stop signs, yield signs, pedestrian signs. And they put them up. This was before I came here. And those signs have about a 10-year lifespan. Well, we're going on 11 years. But it was ironic. I was in Washington, D.C. last weekend, and I saw some of the worst street signs I've ever seen in my life. And then I've got a piece of paper somewhere in my office that says that we have to 2015 to meet federal reflectivity standards. So
You need to send it to DC.
I need to. So
Well, they must not get any state street aid since they're
They
not
probably-
state.
they probably don't. You're probably right.
Oh.
But that's why that number is elevated. And then the debt service, that is an old loan, payment loan. This year, if I remember right, this is the last year we have to pay that back. That will come off this year. Resurfacing secondary streets. Now you can see we had 30,000 budgeted in there last year. I put 300,000 in there this year, and that is so we can accommodate our striping plan and hopefully do some street improvements. Now, this is not a paving plan. The paving plan will come next year. now that we have our pavement conditioning index software. And I tried to print a map to bring, but it's just printed out of iWorks. It was just so fuzzy. I've emailed my contact at iWorks to see if he can send me a shape file, because Michael says he can clean it up and have me something that's presentable. You look at it, it just looks like a bunch of fuzzy colors. There's no clarity to it. On the computer, it looks great, but when you print it, it just,
It's not over 40 friendly.
it's not. And I've tried every way in the world to make it that way.
Do you have a digital file that you could send to us?
That's what I'm trying to get from Michael. Our end of iWorks, we can't do anything with shape files, but I can request the shape files from him, and then Michael can, do his graphic.
Make it into a
wizardry.
PDF or something that we can
Right.
read.
Yeah, and I emailed the guy Friday, and I got an email today that somebody was going to be calling me this week. So
So the 300 grand is just for, that's not needed paving then?
no, sir, that's not payment.
Greg, that's where we budget our exposure to the TDOT grant, 20%.
Yes.
I'm glad you said that. I'm sorry. I'm glad you said that because Jennifer and I were just discussing that very thing.
So all the TDOT projects that we have, most of them have some cost share.
Yeah.
And as they've gone through execution, we've been chipping away at our cost share, but at the end of the projects, pretty much the overrun is all on us. So as these projects wind up, we get a bill that typically pushes over 20%. But it's not a train wreck, but that's the budget line item where those
Okay, all right,
the final payments wind up being paid out.
fair enough.
So a question about that. Sorry. Are you talking about like the signalization project,
Yes,
the one that ran
Signalization
super
project.
long?
and the other one that still is a Browntown paving, TDOT. And then some ones that will be in the future, the ADA, which is south end of town sidewalks, the low water bridge replacement. And I think there's one other one I'm missing.
CMAC. Mike Boulevard.
My Boulevard, yeah. Yep. Those will ultimately, as we anticipate annual budget expenses, that's the line item where our share will land. And right now, the big bill that'll probably come due this year is the final on the signalization. Now I'm speaking for Greg. You take it from here, Greg.
So that's the only one that we're expected to have to pay out on.
Right now.
Okay,
Probably this budget.
for
year.
this budget year.
Brief question about the pavement condition index. You said it's complete?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I would love if it would be possible to have a presentation item just on that, like maybe in a work session. I'm very curious to see an analysis of, what percentage of our streets are in what condition, that sort of thing.
Okay.
We do anticipate all these plans that have been in the works. We actually tried to start the stepping through them with the stormwater last time, but we couldn't get the stars to align. So first up in that parade of plans will be stormwater. Barge is in the queue as well as Deputy Public Works Director Johnson. And then we'll step through all of them on the sidewalk. Very exciting news there. I'm as jazzed as everybody else in this room about sharing the sidewalk story. PCI, and then also you'll be getting communications on the Park and Rec Master Plan and getting to the next phase of public conversation on that. So all these plans that we've been chipping away at this past year will all come to the commission for your level of review and input and consideration.
Excellent. Thank you.
Greg, really quick, just on the street signs, the 60,000, is that enough to cover replacement of all of the signs?
No, ma'am. No, that will, I don't know what a good number is. I tried to use the sign inventory. We can bake some costs in there. And that's why I'm advocating for a engineering technician, a cubicle-based person that can take these and can go in there and put treatments in and cost for treatments and then calculate, okay, we need to work this zone, or, this end of the town needs love, and, this is what it's going to cost striping and, and all that. And, but 60,000 is nowhere near the price of signs. Has doubled in the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And used to, we could buy a stop sign for like $45. Now they're 105 or 108.
And Greg, I think we have about 4,500 signs.
Actually, it's more than that. I ran the thing in my work. I think it's over 5,200. Yeah.
Counting street signs as well.
Street signs, stop signs, no outlet signs, school zone signs,
And
speed limit signs.
did you,
Well, nobody looks at them anyway.
None of that flashing lights.
did you touch on line item 932?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Okay, I just saw that was moved on the slide, so I thought
Oh.
maybe we were moving on.
No, 932 is just a, we make some drainage improvements from time to time that are associated with roads. Honestly, I don't recall any major work. I spoke with TDOT today. They're gonna help us out with some things on Signal Mountain Road there by the Waffle House. And there may be some work that we have to do there, and that money would come out of something like that for drainage improvements, anything to do with the road bed, curbing, things like that.
Well, I just want to add that this state street aid page, almost everything that we've discussed here reflects our improved multimodal transportation network goals. So
Right.
exciting to see all of this. And I see at the end that we're still even projected to have funds remaining in the state street aid after all of this work.
Greg, I have a question, please, about the street light. Pete mentioned something about you have your light. I've had a neighbor ask me on Linden about a street light because it's very dark on the north end of Linden. Does he need to contact EPB or does Public Works come out and
What you
assess
think,
it?
is he wanting, well, like what Commissioner Phillips is talking about, he's got one that he pays for that's turned toward his house.
So
But
you
this is-
can get one, you can call down there and they'll put you one and they'll turn it towards your house and it's be on your electric bill, $7 a month
Okay,
ish.
But just a street light, what he needs to do is what I've told the last couple of residents and asked that question is put in a work order in our work. We'll go out and take a look at it. Just because he wants one, everybody on the street may not want one. Some people don't like street lights and some people do. I had a guy at when we had the open house come up and ask me if we could put a street light across from his house on the other side of the street because it was dark. That end of the street was dark. So Rick went up there and there's one like right here and he wanted another one put right here. And his whole yard would have been lit up on two sides, but it would have been at the city's expense across the street. So we told him, no, we weren't going to put it up because there's one right there. And I will go and take an individual look at each case.
so on the south, they're paced on the south side of Linden. It's on this north end that.
And it may be there's a lot there that's out too. I run into that a lot of times. People ask for lights and I'll go and find there's one there on the pole. It's just, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, if it's a city-owned light, we can give them the pole number and they'll come out and replace it.
There's poles there. I just don't.
He'll put a work order in, we'll go take a look at
Okay,
it.
thank you. All right, I'll let him know.
There's a little tag on that pole. You can do that on the website. There's a tag on the pole and you can, if you have a light that's cycling or out, you can go to that tag, go to the website.
That's what we do. We don't fix it. If somebody calls and reports that the light's out, we just go get the tag number and email it to our contact at EPB and they do a work order.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I suppose we'll let you move on from State Street.
Okay. Well, we'll go to, I think solid waste was next. And as I was saying before, solid waste, not a lot of change there. Personnel, I've increased a little bit for fuel and a little bit for supplies. We're buying more garbage cans now than we used to, and that's where we pay for those out of supplies. But other than that, a little bit of extra maintenance money.
Where do workers' comp go? That just 146.
Yeah.
It's
I'll-
only there, we're not always having to pay it out.
Okay.
So
That's only-
it's only budgeted when we're.
I've asked that
So
question.
that's not the insurance premium
No.
then? Okay.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Greg, can I ask you a quick question before you move on? Why is there a $15,000 reduction in sanitation charges?
That is just projected revenue.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, it's just I guess you would just.
In the current year, we had a big collection of past due fees.
Okay.
so taking into
We're
account
kind of
how
done.
we get that again.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, just ironic. Ruthie and I had a discussion about that this morning.
The extra cans you mentioned, is that because of new residences opening up like Hartman Hills, or are cans being damaged and having to be replaced?
Well, we have a lot of old cans still out in the.
There's
in the
reaching end of
neighborhood.
life? Or,
Right. Yeah, the ones that we had, there's I'd say probably still 60% or so are probably 20-year-old. Well, no, 20. We started garbage in 13, so they're 10, 11-year-old cans.
It's fine.
You know, UV rays have destroyed the plastics, and we usually buy around 300 to 350 cans a year, but because of Hartman Hills and some of the new developments, Julius Park and others, we've had to buy more, and then we're finding more and more of the old cans. You know, the automated truck, occasionally they'll pick it up and he'll squeeze it and dump it and it'll just crack. And my guys, you know, they realize that, you know, people rely on us to keep the garbage contained. So my guys are real good about if they damage a can, they replace it. But with our work now, we've got records of every can we replace, every work order. And before we just swap them out willy-nilly and move on.
So if you have somebody who's asking for one repeatedly.
Kate has the uncanny knack. Uncanny knack to go into our work and look up a serial number for garbage can and see what property it was assigned to, and she will get in the car and drive over there and verify that can's at the wrong address, and she'll tell our solid waste guys to swap those cans.
Wow.
Because you'd be surprised how many people we take a new can to a house, and then they call 2 days later and says, "That new can that y'all brought me, my neighbor just took it and gave me his old one." So,
Wow.
it happens. It happens.
I hadn't thought about that.
Oh.
Giving him ideas now.
I
Do not try this at home, folks.
I do want to point out that the fund balance is, ending fund balance is lower, quite a bit lower this year and next year. And part of the reason is, when Jennifer was helping us figure this part of the budget, I've got 2 trucks that we've ordered, one 3 years ago and one about a year and a half ago. And I just got confirmation those will probably be delivered in the next 2 months. And that's going to be about $460,000 of cash payment. That's how we bought them, was cash. And so she's kind of figured that in. That's why the fund balance went from over $1 million last year and 453,000 this year. And then with the reduced revenue, you know, but this fund will recover. You know, money comes in quite frequently, and it will recover. I don't anticipate till we get our capital improvements program going. I don't anticipate another large truck purchase for the next couple of years anyway. Any more questions? All right. Everybody's favorite. Stormwater. Right now, stormwater is a work in progress. Davis and Michael and Derek are doing a real good job. You know, barge, I don't know, how many work orders a day do you think you guys are fulfilling now? Just an average for the easy ones. I know some of them are a little bit more difficult, but
at least one a day.
Yeah.
Just depends on what
and
the
street sweeping.
severity of them are.
Yeah, and street sweeping, and you know, and it's all noticeable. Rick took me today to look at some trees that we're going to have to ask somebody to cut. And while we were up there, it was up on Gover Drive, up there on top of the hill, and they had a mess of a ditch up there. That I think somebody built a house up there and just they put a tile in one side and closed the other side, filled the other side in with mud or something.
They put a driveway over the tile and
so
didn't run it out.
and the water was, you know, running across the road instead of running down. And our stormwater guys, you know, took action, went up there and fixed it. Rick was proud to take me by there and show that to me today, and it looked real good. I appreciate that work. They did. It looked good. But other than, you know, if you have any questions, Let's look and see here.
What's the depreciation 600? Is that just all of it?
Yeah, I'll have to ask Jennifer to explain that. Depreciation, line 600.
So basically, the stormwater fund is your proprietary fund, so it operates like a for-profit. And when the auditors come, they book depreciation in this fund.
Okay.
And so that's more or less a placeholder because it's gonna count towards our budget.
Okay.
So we don't wanna get dinged later, so you might as well account that it's gonna be there.
Because I noticed there wasn't depreciation in the other funds. So
Yeah, no, it's just this one, the other funds, the depreciation doesn't get recorded at that level.
because this is paid from a fee, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I guess the biggest single increase that's worth noting would be the contract services. You know, we pay some contract services to the county for tax collection and things like that, but also put a little extra money in there so that, you know, we could hire out a company, like if we need to slip, like we almost had to slip line a storm drain up at Fire Station 2 because of the nature of the location and the utilities that were around it. Slip lining would have been the most cost-effective way to, you know, come up there and fix that one. But it turns out the tile was in good shape, but that's what that extra money on top of contract services.
So it says county in parentheses, but it doesn't, not necessarily county.
Not all county,
Okay.
not all county.
Does the county do our MS4 thing?
Mhm.
They do that.
Yes.
All right.
And we're one of several small cities that participate in the counties in this one.
Okay.
Just a few things. I budgeted a little extra employee training and travel in there. You know, our guys have been real good to go to a couple of conferences, stormwater conferences and stormwater training events. And I like to give them every opportunity to increase their skills that we can. And so I bucked a little extra money in there for fuel or for travel and training. And then you'll see on line 332, you were asking, you know, about the truck maintenance. Well, most of the other departments, it's in 261. This was 332.
Okay.
And I had to bump that up. It was $2,000 last year. But last year, all we had was a 40-year-old jetter truck and a pickup truck. Well, now we've got a backhoe, we've got a new jetter truck, we've got a street sweeper, we've got a new pickup truck, we've got a new dump truck.
That curb brooms.
Yeah, yes, and brooms. And so they're gonna need some service and attention.
Yeah.
Before we didn't have anything, so. Any questions about stormwater?
I would like to highlight one thing, Greg.
Okay.
I was gonna, give me the stink eye when I asked him, but would you walk us through the 5.25 FTE so the commission understands?
Okay.
Sharing the, and I can help you. if you
Okay.
want.
Well, we're through with stormwater, but 5.25 FTE, but there's only 3 guys that work in that department. And what we did.
You work twice as hard, then?
Yes, that's it. No, we have multiple people that do multiple jobs. Ricky Reeves being one, Kate Hagney being one, our engineering tech being one. They service the street department, the stormwater department, and in Kate's case, the solid waste department. And so Jennifer helped me figure out a personnel salaries plan. We used to do this in the past, and for some reason we quit.
Well, we always did it, even in the current year budget, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
We split, 1 or 2 people in half. But this is a much more granular this time.
Yeah, and so this 5.25 people represents the 3 full-time personnel that work in that department, plus 50% of Leslie Johnson's salary, because she is still going to be a utility manager. So it'll be 50% of her salary, 50% of Ricky Reed's salary, 50% of the engineering technician's salary. So the general fund won't bear the burden of all of those salaries, just 50%, and then 25% of Kate's salary.
Was it the foreman? We still counting
You
foreman?
said the engineering tech, right?
Engineering tech, yeah.
That's only 4 3/4 something.
Yeah, that probably did count the yeah, that did count the form. Yes.
It's,
Oh, so it should be 4.25,
4.7.
4.75. Okay.
five point seven five.
No.
4.75. Okay, so we've got three FTE, Davis, Derek, and Michael, the three superstars who work day in and day out. We have a half of Leslie. And
Ricky,
Half of Ricky, so
half
that's
of
one.
Ricky.
half of engineering tech,
And then 25% of,
quarter K.
Yep,
so that's right, 4.75.
great, thank you.
And that keeps,
Math and public's not my forte. Thank you.
but that keeps the general fund from having to bear the cost of those salaries alone. Plus, it keeps us from having to hire a full-time supervisor for right now, for stormwater, managing it. There's gonna come a point in time that we're probably going to have to do that, and add that supervisor expertise in stormwater to that budget right there. But for right now, we can manage, and that's how we pay for that.
Thank you for that.
Anything else? Let's see. Turn over to tab 4.
Well, Greg, really quick, we're not really budgeting for any like capital projects yet.
Not yet.
Even though, do we know when Barge is gonna be totally done with the stormwater
I
mapping?
believe their estimate right now is probably October.
Wow, okay,
So maybe next budget.
okay, maybe, gotcha.
We were hoping to, we were actually on the agenda for your last regular work
Mhm.
session, and it had to fall off because of availability of key presenters, but they are ready to come and give us a peek at what the rest of it will look like. I don't know it off the top of my head. If Leslie were here, she probably could have told me.
Tab 4. There's a little memo here, and I'll let you read that at your own leisure instead of taking up so much time. But what it boils down to is about 4 or 5 months ago, Leslie and I had a discussion. When she was hired to be a capital projects manager and the stormwater utility manager. And as soon as she come on board, I went out, and whenever everybody realized the skill set that she had, she's done everything else, under the sun that you can think of that she's done. So her and I had a discussion about presenting to the city manager that we create a community development department and make her the department director for community development. And then we pieced out what the community development was going to do. We proposed that she takes Eddie Clinton as the building official and Michael Pham as the city planner. And she creates this department, and let's just go through her slides. You can read this memo. This is something that we presented to the city manager sometime, it's dated April 24th, April 2024, but I kind of updated it a few weeks ago. But let's just go. These are Leslie's slides. And I think we have the city manager's full support on this, and I think we will yours too. And I apologize. I just opened these slides up this morning, and I've not had a chance to rehearse them or go through them.
I might jump in and chime in too.
Yeah.
Leslie, fine tune them.
She says, let's take a look at how community development efforts currently function within public works. And then this is current chart, not a staffing chart per se, but a responsibility chart. And you see Leslie's name's on there several times.
Let's dwell on kind of time. There's just a lot to take in here. So going down the left side is really a lot of what we just gone through with Greg. The streets, which are going to run in public works, and Ricky Reeves is our supervisor, and there's a large crew there. And when we say streets, we're talking about signage and signals and sidewalks and striping, just a whole, portfolio of sub-level expertise that all roll up into streets, and that State Street aid as well as a piece of that. Sanitation, again, it's its own thing, its own crew, and sanitation also has a dedicated supervisor. Pretty self-explanatory, except I'll remind everybody that's where our recycling attendant is also in that business line as well. Facilities, Justin Hedrick, we've just been through that. Capital projects, this is, you'll see capital projects is both on the left and on the right. And the thinking there is Leslie on the right along the leading edge of it. The concept development, pre-design, sourcing of grants, if it's applicable, developing the capital improvement program so the commission will have an understanding of all the bills, including vehicle equipment replacements and other substantive service delivery changes we might anticipate, such as creating a library. So we would put that out there, and then the commission and the public would understand those big investments and when we might consider making them. So Leslie on the right would own the leading edge of that, and then they all get executed. In the execution, they get handed back to Greg for actual construction. That's his engineering tech, which he's talked about, and then stewardship over the life cycle of that capital resource remains with Public Works over the life cycle. So it's kind of a hand in glove there on that particular one. Back on the left side, coming down, the office manager, Kate, and she's supporting all these different business lines with their own pots of money. She supports streets, and that's largely general fund, sanitation fee-based, stormwater fee-based, and also the community development side. And so Kate's kind of in there in the middle of all those different business lines, providing essential administrative support and public interface as well. And then Parks, Trails, and Rec is emerging, and that's going to stay in the Public Works portfolio. So then you come over here to the right side and starting from the top, then you kind of come down and understand the body of work that we're anticipating being under Director Johnson's leadership, the planning and zoning. And that is, we are transitioning away from Southeast Tennessee Development District as our partner and going to do that by ourselves. And that will commence officially on 1 July. And that means Michael Pham will be the staff member present at the Planning Commission, their work session and regular session, and doing all the heavy lifting for all that work. We will have support from the RPA. And of course, we still have a relationship with SETD. All the jurisdictions in Southeast Tennessee have a relationship with SETD. We have an assessment, it's like 25 cents per person. It winds up being $2,500 for us in Red Bank that we pay SETD as an assessment. That means they pick up the phone and answer our questions. And so we're going to have an ongoing relationship with Ashley and all things SETD. But the real support to us will come from ourselves, Leslie and Michael, and also the RPA. And Dan, Router, and Karen Rennick, and their staff, they're all on board. So they're excited about working closer with us. Stormwater management, the capital, the operational side stays on Public Works. The interfacing with on the MS4 with the water quality, Hamilton County, sitting on the governing body, looking at our credits and incentives and our ordinances that we operate, that will stay with Leslie. And any future capital projects that might emerge from the stormwater asset management plan, that leading edge of stormwater will stay with Leslie's new department. Codes enforcement's already there. That really doesn't do justice to what he does. He's the building official, so he is like Eddie Clinton's our code, our fire marshal. The building official is sort of the fire marshal, if you will, on the non-fire, the non-combustible aspect of that. Capital projects management, again, that's the leading edge, and particularly interfacing with the commission on whether we want to make a capital investment or not, and how we're going to pay for it. The financial advisor that we just onboarded will have a relationship with Leslie, and that at the staff level will figure out how we're going to pay for this, what it's going to cost, how we're going to pay for it, what the debt service looks like, and tee up a very informed decision for the board to make on all things capital. Grant administration, particularly on the leading edge, finding the grants, putting together the application, meeting the criteria, and then keeping an eye on the grant through the execution phase. Almost all grants will spin off to somebody who will actually do it, and a lot of it lands in Public Works. but the administration of the grant, it'll be a partnership with Leslie's team and our financial team to make sure that we close out that grant properly. And then again, commission goals. Right now, 3 of the 5 goals are with, if we create this department, we land in hers, and 2 of them remain with Greg. So sorry to steal your spotlight, Greg, but there was just so much on this slide. I didn't want to click past it.
Well, I think we'll see this again. I think we'll
Yeah.
slide similar.
I think it's important to note regarding the commission goals that currently they all fall under Greg's department. So it could benefit us to have 2 directors to oversee
Yeah, it's
2
gonna
and
be
3 of those goals respectively, then all in one. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
Commissioner Phelps.
I'm sorry, I interrupted. Like, who's doing the beautification thing?
Well, that's actually, you know, the beauty of this is it will be a joint effort on some things like, you know, I've already had discussions with Michael Pham.
Okay,
He's already looking into TDOT requirements, you know, to be able to put up entrance signs into the city. And Michael will take that part of it and he will come up with some kind of plan that he can work with me, and then we'll go after grants, or, you know, if it takes me, you know, going to a TDOT meeting and meeting with an executive, you know, and getting the proper paperwork filled out. So we'll work hand in hand. It's 2 separate departments. But right now we're all it's kind of like we're all bunched in one department, and it's like, he's going to take this, he's going to take this. Yeah, Michael's already working on our sidewalk inventory and sidewalk connectivity. And so he's already created basically a heat map, and took the information that Leslie got from the inventory here back in January or February, and then he's added the ones that I've given him in the last couple of weeks. He's added them to that map as proposed sidewalk connectivity. So we'll be able to present that.
I will also add that a lot of beautification really is public works performing at a very high level. Replacing faded signs, sweeping the streets, the new mast arms of all those intersections, sort of sagging cables and signals that are out of alignment and look dim. Those intersections pop with those new mast arms and those highly reflective. So really public works being on their game across all the things that they're the steward for. That's more than half of beautification. Then the other half, that's more figuring out changes that we want to bring about, like taking a wide open off-ramp from the highway into Red Bank and beautifying that. That will more reside in the community development piece to envision that and then pass it off to somebody who will execute it. Most of the time it'll be public works, but in other times it might be some other party that we find to execute those beautification projects. But that's kind of the partnership we envision between community development and public works.
Well, I hope they're also with murals and
Yes.
the art and
Yes.
and you know, because the way I see it, you got plants, you know, maintenance and art. And that's really how you.
We'll actually touch on those citizen advisory boards more in just a minute.
So in her slide, she had these 3 questions here. What is the future role of community development in Red Bank? What are some emerging community development needs and challenges facing Red Bank? And how do we set the stage for Red Bank's success in community development? And you got copies of these in your books too, if you need to carry them home. And what is the role of community development in Red Bank? Community development efforts play a role to improve quality of life for individuals or communities by addressing both social, economic, and environmental changes. And furthermore, successful community development efforts involve collaboration between residents, businesses, government agencies, and other vital stakeholders to not only identify needs and challenges, but to implement strategic solutions effectively and efficiently. And I kind of got off. What are the current emerging development needs and challenges facing Red Bank? Community engagement, urban growth and planning, affordable housing. You know, let me go back to community engagement. You know, we've never done a lot of that here in Red Bank. And after we had the one over at the community center on what was it, March the 14th? You know, I know all the talk that come out of it, but I also heard people saying, I was glad they did that. I was glad I got to go partake in that, or I was glad I got to see the results of it on social media or something like that. And so it wasn't just, you know, the fact that people were there and got to voice their opinion. It was just the fact that we had the event to start with that I think really impressed a lot of people. And you just don't hear that side of it. But I did. I paid attention to that. public infrastructure, economic development, records management, and data analysis. And that's a big one for us. I mean, that's new ground that we're treading with records management and data analysis. You know, more and more every day in public works, you know, we inherit, you know, like PCI. You know, if you ask me today, how many roads do we have left with a 2-year remaining service life? I can tell you, we have one. Does it need immediate attention? No, it doesn't. It's very slightly traveled. But, you know, 60% of our roads like right now probably have a 8-year remaining service life. I couldn't have told you that, you know, back in January. But now those numbers right there at our disposal, that's a good thing. And that's what the community development is going to go after. How does Red Bank set the stage for success in community development? Establishing a dedicated community development department is crucial for achieving commission goals while fostering growth, sustainability, and inclusivity through focused expertise, accountability, and transparency, holistic approaches, capacity building, tailored solutions, and measurable impact. What does the structure of a community development department look like? What are the oversight? What areas of oversight would fall under community development? What staffing needs to be required? And what does a FY25 budget look like to support community development? And this is the other chart that she had up there. And this is mainly the breakdown that she has for the personnel herself, Michael Pham, Eddie Clinton, and Beth Powell, and then of course Kate's assistants. Kate's probably not on there, but
what about code enforcement? I mean,
that's still Eddie Clinton.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we can start at this slide then. Let's just talk it from the top left, going down the left side. Planning and zoning, that's Michael Pham, and that is GIS mapping, and you know we're going to be responsible now for updating the zoning that won't be set to you. So we're wiring that together now, and we pretty much have that figured out, but we won't throw the switch on it until the department's approved. Stormwater, we mentioned that already. The administration of the program will remain with code, with community development, codes and enforcement, and AHO is administrative hearing officer. So that is Judge. That is Mr. James Exum, and we've just refreshed that relationship. So we'll get that back up and running. And I think we have the next one scheduled, and we have a vexing issue to come before the judge. So we're going to be making progress on code enforcement issues. Capital Projects Administration, she will be the keeper of the capital improvement plan, grant administration, and commission goals for community development. Consistently, going back now 3 retreats, the commission has, this commission and the previous commission, envisioned broad community development needs and goals, and the needs go beyond just 5 goals. If you look at the SWOT analysis, there's a lot of needs. They got distilled down to 5 focus areas, but if you really go back now, there's a pretty rich body of documenting what this commission and the previous commission identified. They're largely community development. They're bringing about citywide changes in a thoughtful, intentional way, whether it's expanding service delivery like the library, or possibly curbside recycling, or possibly transit, to doing specific things like beautification, or making sure our stormwater system is going to work. And so all those tie back down to the commission goals, and having a department really focused on being responsive to the commission and those community development goals. And of course, the staff and the commission are all responsive to the public that we serve. And taking action in areas that the city decides need to be tackled. New oversight is on the right, so I'll start at the top there. Committee oversight of the art and nonprofit. Those, we went through a pretty good spurt of standing up citizen advisory boards, but they really weren't championed very well. They resided at my level, frankly. And some of them thrived at that level, and some of them need a little bit more help from staff. So art and nonprofit will transition over to the new community development department, and they'll be better supported in those endeavors. Agency and board representatives, and there's a couple of them listed there. Leslie is already our WWTA sewer rep. She'll be seated. She is seated formally on the TPO. and the TCC. She's a liaison back to SETI. And we could also put RPA in there too. It's alphabet soup.
Along with Michael.
Yes. Along with Michael. Contract administration for quite a portfolio of contracts. One of the things that we're moving over there is the relationship with CARTA. And right now we have a relationship with CARTA focused on paratransit, but Leslie and Michael will own that staff-to-staff relationship with CARTA. And that's just one example of what we're talking about there about managing agency relationships. Records management and public messaging, and we've all seen that being very effective with mailers and outreach and surveys. That's really in that body of work there, and hence the request for some administrative support. Grant sourcing and procurement, we've talked about that, and then generally administrative support. We just need extra bodies in City Hall, and Tracy and I and Greg and Leslie really had a robust conversation about where should we land the additional administrative capability. A lot of this stuff is at my and Tracy's level. Tracy's completely overloaded with all the hats she wears, and I get overloaded with coming with strategic thinking and then having to do a specific thing on a specific action. Things get stuck at that level. So we decided that the additional administrative support in City Hall was best housed in the Community Development Department. But she will support Tracy and I in ways that we need support occasionally. But she will, most of those issues actually, instead of staying with Tracy and I, they're gonna go over to Leslie. And so we're giving her the administrative support to manage that. Help administer, I think 5 now, citizen advisory boards, Planning Commission, BZA, art, nonprofit, and cemetery, yes. No, cemetery stays with.
Is it Board of Floodplain Review?
Yes, Board of Floodplain Review. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Yes. So the administrative support for all of those advisory boards, and some of them are very active and very formal and very on the record, and some of them are less active and less formal. And she will meet the needs of each of those boards at their level of need. So thank you, Greg. Back to you.
I've continued to hear a lot of requests and desire for something like a community garden, and the potential of a community garden citizens advisory board to oversee an effort like that. Seems like it would also potentially in the future make sense in such a place.
Absolutely. And there's always going to be a great partnership with Public Works. So some of those things might be conceived of in the Community Development Department and then ultimately get passed over to Parks or Public Works, either Jeffrey or Justin.
Similarly to the other projects,
Yes.
when they reach the implementation, go from planning to implementation, then they shift over
Yes.
from the community development to the public works.
Yes. And then the maintenance of the advisory board probably would stay with the community development side. But cemetery is an interesting example of where they kind of bounce between Justin on the get her done and Jeffrey on the get her done in different levels. We just have to meet those advisory boards at their point of need and have the staff ready, knowledgeable in what the advisory board's thinking and ready to come alongside them when they need staff help. And so far in cemetery is a good example of sitting out the park. Every time they do something, procurement for fencing or a volunteer cleanup, staff's right there to come alongside and just at the right time, do whatever they need.
Yeah.
And choreographing that dance between staff effort and an independent citizen advisory board takes focus at the department director level.
Right.
This next slide shows the FTE breakdown. Again, as we discussed earlier, Leslie's salary will be split with community development and stormwater. So her and Kate are the 0.75, and that would leave Eddie, Michael, and Beth as the 3. Now, from the public works side, I'm giving up 3 full-time positions, with Leslie's being the largest salary, and with her taking 50% of stormwater, it was a great reduction to the financial burden for this department, to do it this way. And we've had excellent coverage, with her and Kate, and then the addition of Beth.
And so that's where I found out of 41 or 43,100 the savings is Fast ride along, right?
Fast ride
They're
along.
fast ride along. Okay.
All right, so she prepared this slide here. I think I've got an updated slide. Missing page. We had a last minute change. Oh, okay. We had a last minute change. There was the Small Cities Coalition. Those are some of the activities or the expenses that Leslie will also be taking over. She'll be taking over the McCamey Animal contract. She'll be taking over the Small Cities Coalition contract. She'll be taking over GIS services. You know, I've paid Hamilton County $12,000 a year, I think it is, out of my budget ever since I've been here. And she'll be taking that responsibility because she will actually be updating. We'll still have a relationship with GIS, even though we'll be doing our own zoning. But once we do our own things in-house here, we will share that with Hamilton County GIS to update the public GIS sector that this public can go to. And that costs us about $12,000 a year. And she'll be taking all those additional expenses. That's another reason my budget was so much lower, is we're shifting all that to community development. We're not adding, this is all not new expenses. It's just expenses from mostly public works in the addition of one full-time person.
And the 25,000 that we were conversing about that didn't land here, that's already in the budget elsewhere.
Right.
These Small Cities Coalition.
What'd you say besides GIS, McCamey and,
Small Cities Coalition.
Set the,
thank you.
yeah, Southeast Tennessee Development District,
Oh, the $2,500 or whatever.
25 and whatever else we owe them, the remainder of the contract or however. I'm sure we'll have some balance.
The actual contract we have now ends 30 June. So 1 July, it would drop down to just $2,500 a year.
Okay.
All right, I think the information that you have in your packet, total for community development, $627,549. Now, let me go through a couple more slides here. This is Leslie's version of how the years turn. These are the cogs that get it done. And you can see commission goals, planning initiatives, and service delivery, and then community development and public works. So the three work hand in hand in propelling the city forward. And then, as she mentions here, community development, public works will collaborate for successful strategic outcomes. Systems thinking, critical thinking, and creative thinking all work hand in hand.
And just to draw on this slide, this is really rich when you wrap your brain around it. The systems thinking piece really is, how do we do things already? What are the agencies involved? What's our staffing level? What's our equipping level? You know, what does public works already do? The creative thinking could be, for example, from a citizen advisory board, and the critical thinking could come from the commission. And you put all that together and you envision and resource and drive towards strategic outcomes. And of course, there's public input all along, and I think we just got some. But the idea is that this isn't just a department that's doing this or a director. This is a large diaspora of people that you have to engage and bring along. You're going to bring about these strategic outcomes like beautification. Well, when you talk to people about where they want to beautify, most of it's TDOT land. And so right away, you're talking to another agency, which is a giant bureaucracy. So that's really what that slide is meant to get to, that to envision these citywide strategic outcomes, you have to have a team that's going to pull together all the stakeholders and chip away at it over time.
Well, I need some time is really important because a lot of these goals that we have, in particular stormwater and multimodal, these are going to be decade plus goals probably to really reach the level that we want to be. And so we're going to need, durable structure to carry those goals forward long enough to actually see the outcome that we have desired.
Thank you, Mayor. I couldn't have said it better. If you just dwell on multimodal for a second, a really good example. Dayton Boulevard looks pretty much like it did when it was a state route. And not only on the public side, but on the private side as well. You can still spot the Shoney's and the Sambo's and the Western Sizzlin'.
Gas stations.
And all the gas stations that are shut.
Alive and dead.
Yep. And so the private investment that was built around a state route still there, and so is the public investment. And it's gonna take generations to transform Dayton Boulevard into what it needs to be, with lots of public engagement, agency input, multiple commissions input and investment, and that's really a long-term view. And then the sensibilities have changed too. Not only has the state route changed, but the sensibilities have changed for, the goal was simply, we don't want to be Chattanooga. Now the goal is, I want to bike and ped through the tunnel to North Shore. So wow, that's a big, and we got 210 apartments, and they're gonna wanna probably walk their dog up to White Oak Park. So we have to envision Dayton Boulevard from a bike and ped and vehicle, and chip away at that.
Golf carts.
Golf carts. That's the multimodal. That's kind of all wrapped up in that Hudson word that we talked about called multimodal. It's really making it safe for all users.
Everyone who walks and rolls.
Yes.
Yeah.
And making it safe.
Anyone
And
who
inviting.
moves.
And inviting. So you're not intimidated to walk from your apartment, walk your dog across that little pedestrian bridge that is over Stringer's Branch, and do Linden and up Midvale to Dog Park. And in fact, I think the Rise Partners, the Hawthorne at White Oak is actually marketing their proximity to the dog park in White Oak Park. So it's an amenity that has value to the community.
Well, it had value to that project. I mean,
There's a reason they picked what they did.
people like to be around parks.
Especially if you live in an apartment.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all the more.
Yeah.
All right, and that's Leslie's final slide, balanced vision. And she can do it. There's one more tab, and it is the community development budget. Wrote out separate. I apologize, I think I forgot to copy the last page. It just had the animal control total and the total for community development. And the total for community development should be $652,049. And I'm sorry for that. I didn't realize it didn't print that last.
That probably includes the 20.
Yeah, it does. The email that you sent.
652 what?
$652,049. And that includes everything that's been discussed, including the Small Cities Coalition fee that we pay for Bridget Raper services.
Is that the 25,000?
Yes.
That was in the
Yes,
wrong
ma'am.
place.
And as you mentioned
Gotcha.
before, this is not 652,000 new dollars, but a significant portion of that is carried over from the previous public works budget.
Yes, ma'am. The public works budget is $645,510 lower than last year's budget.
645 what?
645,510. The community development budget is 652,049 for a net difference of $6,539.
Well, that sounds like a bargain. $6,000 more
Yes.
for a whole new department?
Yes.
Well, there's a little bit more to it than that. At a macro level, that paints an accurate picture, generally speaking. But there's a lot more puts and takes across the city that weren't originally in the public works budget. So there is some sort of.
That's true. We have the utility expenses moving, that
Right.
kind of thing. So yeah, it's not totally one for one, but
Right. But it paints a fairly accurate picture that most of these dollars were in the budget elsewhere.
largely.
But now you've also absorbed all the fire departments, electric bills and all that stuff in public works now too, correct?
Into facilities.
The facilities, right?
Yeah,
But I
that
mean,
number, yeah, that lower number included facilities. Included all public works and parks.
Are you done?
Damn if you are. I thought we were supposed to take a time out.
Any more questions for Director Tate?
Charging.
And I wasn't here for the previous presentation. Did we take a recess
We did.
before
Yes, we took a
um,
short break,
Ms. Perry's presentation?
like a 5-minute break.
Yeah, would we like to go ahead and do that again?
Please,
Okay,
yes, please.
all right, brief recess if everyone's all right with that. Thank you, Mr. Tate.
I've been in the car for like 5 hours today
yeah.
driving, so I'm like, my body is very upset. Yeah. I know, like, it's weird, yeah, probably.
Did you,
Ms. Perry, we'll hear from you next for our City Hall budget, administration, finance. And we have the Director of Administration, Tracy Perry, and Jennifer Waycaster of Waycaster CPA LLC. Thank you for being here today, Ms. Waycaster.
Well, I apologize. I'm not nearly as in depth.
You're on our list.
We appreciate that.
Well, you don't have five.
Thank
You don't have
Yeah.
5 commission goals to report back on.
No, that's
Yeah,
true.
and we're appreciative.
In personnel last year, we were at 593, 393. Proposed budget is at 654, 888. This year, it's an increase of about 62,000. In 2024, City Hall has city manager, director of administration, finance director, 2 full-time and 2 part-time. With the shifting of staff, we will now have a city manager, director of administration, 3 full-times, including the new CFO when that person comes on board, and 1 part-time support staff. And this, it also includes an escalation in the position for the director of administration, which is me, because he's elevating me to the department head of City Hall. And we are proposing a 3% COLA, which will impose higher FICA and retirement costs across the board, not just in City Hall. So all other departments are going to have that same increase. Any questions on personnel?
The part-time, is that gonna be Miss Rowan when she retires from her interim CFO duties? Okay.
Re-retires.
Re-retires.
Re-retire.
Repurpose.
Okay.
Okay, then in operations, our current year, we're at 423,783. Proposed is 523,550, increase of almost $100,000. The biggest increase is in education and certification, because we have offered tuition reimbursement for several years now. I'm not sure how many years we've actually offered it. Nobody's taken us up on it until this year. We have 2 currently. I've talked with 2 more that may be doing it, so we had to put some money in the budget to actually pay for that, those are tuition reimbursement.
These are City Hall employees.
Yes. No, this is citywide.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Under administrative, yeah, just
Yes.
like
And this is across the city.
HR
City
in your
employees,
HR role.
yes.
Do you know, or can you remind me how much, like, I can't remember what was in the personnel policy. Are they only allowed to get reimbursed like for 1 class a semester, or what?
It's for, if the classes relate to their current job, it's 100% tuition.
And is it upfront or reimbursement?
It's reimbursed after they show that they have passed that semester.
Okay, so the grading requirements is just pass.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it, Tennessee State, UTC, trade school, that
As
it
long as
applies
it
to their
applies to their
job?
job.
Okay.
And contract services will also see an increase, reflect added cyber training and anticipated inflation on all of these things. We currently have multiple contracts with RJ Young, everything digital. Cyber incident training, is that in line or is that new?
Oh, no, it's all.
The training for them? So along with the cyber incident insurance, we're going to implement some training. Local government handles our financial software, and then there's Civic Plus for the website, our municipal code, newsletter, the agenda system that we have, social media archiving. So technology is expensive.
And that was just some of those contract fees were going up.
Yeah, we anticipate at least a 5% on most of them.
Okay.
For insurance, in current year, we're at 1.28. Proposed for next year is 1.36, increase of about 76,000. We always have at least a 5% increase in our medical and dental coverage. that will come into play in open enrollment. We are proposing to increase the life insurance coverage. Well, 2 years ago, we increased employee coverage to 50,000 from 10. What we'd like to do is increase employees to 75,000, spouse to 25,000, which is 5 times what they currently have. Right now, they only have 5,000. And children up to the age of 23 currently have 2,500. We'd like to cover them at 10,000. And then, of course, the addition of the cyber and incident insurance.
So you said, what was the spouse?
It was 5,000. We went up to 25,000.
Okay.
And is this part of our employer of choice initiative?
It's just furthering making our benefits attractive for anyone that wants to come work here.
And it's not that much more costly as it wasn't when we upped everybody to 50,000.
No, it's only about
3,200.
Yeah, 3,200.
yeah, about. And we actually might knock another 1,000 off that because we might change it to a different carrier. We haven't made up our minds on that yet.
Okay.
Any more questions? All right, and then for legislative, last year, or our current year, we're at 72,830. Proposed, we're at 56,10. Decrease of $22,220. The slight increase in educational certifications, anticipating a new commissioner this year. We're budgeting $8,500 for elections. We've also added a modest $3,000 overall budget for all these new commissions that we have. So they have a little bit of money for like printing or something that they might need to do. And the economic development initiatives that Greg spoke about, the 25,000 for the Small Cities Coalition, that actually goes in Leslie's new budget, and it has been in the legislative. We're moving it over. And the festivals, special events, dropped a lot. We're on for like almost $25,000 in special events for legislative. Most of that is from the festivals like Jubilee and Christmas Parade. So we're moving that over to Parks and Rec as well. So it's going to decrease the legislative budget. And that's all I have.
Now, yeah, I did have a question. You said that the salaries, line 111, that includes all of the positions that you mentioned in the first slide, city manager. Sorry, I'm gonna pull it up so I can actually. There we go. 2025. Yeah, 2025. City manager, director of admin, 3 full-time, including new CFO, and 1 part-time.
Yes.
Now I know one of those positions is new, but do all the carryover positions include that 3% cost of living increase that you mentioned?
They do, and none of them are new. It's just replacement of.
Well, I could be wrong. I thought the new CFO might come in at a different pay rate than the old one exited.
We're offering 80 to 86,000 based on the experience that this person brings to the table. So it could be as low as 80, it could be up to 86.
Okay. And what did Mr. Alexander get paid on retirement? Do you
94.
He
recall?
was at what?
94, wasn't he?
No, he was at 86.
86.
Okay, so it is about the same. Okay. And then the other positions are existing, except the ones moving from part-time to full-time.
Correct.
Do yourself and the city manager have a 3% COLA included in your salaries?
I do. City manager currently does not.
Okay. And has the city manager received a cost of living increase in prior years since he started in 2021?
No, ma'am, he has not.
Okay. So I asked Ms. Perry to provide me with some numbers that we got in the last pay study. I think it's 2023 pay study. Is that where those numbers were from? Yeah, November 2023 is what you said in the email. Is that?
No.
It would have been before that.
I actually reached out to the cities represented by those names, and got their current city managers.
The
pay.
current
But
salary.
that was in October.
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize that when I first gave you the numbers.
Oh, okay. They may have changed since.
They may have changed.
So
slightly.
these numbers I have are as October of last year.
Yes.
I can tell you that the new city manager that just got hired on Signal Mountain got hired at 135. I just met him last night.
I
Oh,
think we have those numbers.
Signal Mountain. Yeah, 135. I've got that number in here. So, Mr. Granum started in 2021 at 110,000, if I recall. And I believe this current budget, does it have him still at 110,000?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Okay, so he doesn't have any cost, has not received the cost of living increase that all the other city employees have received under him. And then for these comparison salaries here, I've got East Ridge getting paid, the city manager gets paid 132,000 a year, Saudi Daisy 134, Signal Mountain 135, Collegedale 144. So I also asked Ms. Perry to calculate if Martin had received the same cost of living increases that the other city employees have already received, then his pay would be just under 130,000 today, just for COLA from 2021, because we know what inflation's been like. So if we wanted to look at a COLA increase, 130 could be a fair number to consider. If we wanted to look at a market rate increase based on the other city managers in the area, it might even be more. Like I said, between 132 and 144 are the range of salaries that we're looking at in other small cities. I don't think it's fair or recognizing the effort that our city manager's done not to, bring him up to commensurate pay with his peers and with the cost of living increases that he's ensured that our other employees all enjoy. So I wanted to bring that up since that's not included in this budget here in front of us, deliberate with you all having that integrated into this budget before the final presentation when the city manager brings it to us, because he won't integrate it himself unless we tell him to.
He also has not gotten any kind of like performance-based bonuses or anything like that.
Yeah. The
entire
numbers.
time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, which the previous city manager was hired in November of 2018 and in September of 2020 got a $20,000 bonus just because he didn't backfill his position as public works director, so had saved the city money. But there was no, that wasn't even 2 years, and we're approaching 3 years that Mr. Granum's been here, and you can all see the incredible changes that we've had, operationally in our city, and
Team building, training, empowering our department directors, making sure everybody else is being taken care of and promoted equitably, paid equitably. So what are y'all, or at least two more of y'all on board with getting Mr.
Yes.
Graham's pay updated?
Yeah, I mean, like for all of our other city employees, we want to be an employer of choice.
That includes the city manager.
Yeah, Martin, cover your ears, but he's very good at his job. So we'll keep him on.
I think a failing of ours that we haven't talked about even a cost of living increase for him until this point in time. So,
well, I'm glad you mentioned that. We can also look, we can wait until, after all this budget craziness, but we can make some updates to his contract. And I spoke with an attorney, and one of the contracts the attorney suggested was actually a clause, one clause to kind of separate the pay section from the rest of it, so that if we wanted to update the pay in the future, we wouldn't have to revisit the whole employment contract, just to simplify things. Another thing we could do is to make a clause that future cost of living increases that the other employees will receive will automatically apply to the city manager. My understanding is the city manager of Athens, it already worked that way. I don't know if there's others also, but at Athens, the city manager gets any COLA increases that the other employees get, even though he's a contract-based employee.
Because it's built into his contract that way.
Yeah, exactly.
For
So,
her.
so that's something that we could build into an updated contract for Martin after the budget. And then longevity pay. All of our other employees get a longevity bonus. So even if we don't want to get into performance-based bonuses, certainly at least considering applying the longevity bonus that, again, all the other employees enjoy as a benefit of staying here with the city. And that helps promote, one of the reasons we offer that longevity bonus is to retain talent and to improve continuity within our
If I'm not
organization.
mistaken, these additional things you're speaking of are actually addressed in his contract.
Longevity pay?
Just the other things that other employees are receive benefit of, that the commission can choose to do.
Oh,
that.
I see what you're saying. There's the more generic language about that.
I think I saw that.
Okay, yeah, but when we revisit the contract, we can ensure whether that language is already enough to include or whether we want to specify that.
Can I ask a question? If we decided we wanted to do this, I assume we need it to be incorporated into the budget. Does it also, does the contract amendment have to happen at the same time? If we're talking about pay, like cost of living increase versus any kind of language change in the contract?
Pay can be pulled separately from the changes to the contract.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% clear.
We need to talk to Arnie
today.
Oh,
He said
okay.
it was.
Oh, we could do it separately?
Yeah, he said that it would be, it wasn't his words, my words, A-okay to modify the pay, within the context of this budget, to budget for the pay, and then to revisit the contract, once we kind of get through the crunch time of all of this.
Okay.
Yep. Commissioner Phillips, any thoughts?
Well, he has done, he's exceeded my expectations in his job performance, really. I mean, he brought us into a professional level of city running that we have not had yet. However, we do have a contract, and it is a contract, and I wouldn't mind amending the contract, amending the pay at that time. If we got a bus to do the budget and making a budgeted item, then we need to do it that way. I mean, if we need to budget for it, but I think, and the 3% of a larger salary is a bigger three than the things. Now, but I have no trouble bringing him in line.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's.
And I mean, his job performance speaks for itself. Nothing else, just in the hiring of talent.
Absolutely.
You're saying bring them in line, like with just the lack of cost of living increases and or like with the other.
Well,
city managers?
what somebody else makes has no bearing to me. You know what I'm saying? They just negotiate better. All right. But now I think that, we come in with a base pay, if you will. And I think the cost of living would be in line. I think that would be something to, inflation's hit us all. But just be realizing that 3% is of a larger number than it's not the same as the buying power is quite significantly different than $50,000 employee.
Right.
So
Are you saying, you're saying if we modified the contract language to include that going forward?
As long as it's tied to something, because I mean, if there's zero inflation and everything and the CPI is flat, then, the cost of living is not increasing. So, so I would say as long as our cost of living is tied to something, that there's a metric to measure by, then I'd be okay with that, because it is one of those things. He does come up here every year. He's increased the budget. We went to some good community engagement last time we raised taxes. In fact, when they was talking about the community engagement, I said I remember a lot of that community engagement. But, you know, he stuck the course and he's held our feet to the fire.
Just put up with us.
Mhm.
Having 5 bosses is no easy task.
So you said that the 130 amount is what it would look like if in like cost of living increases had
I wasn't
happened.
prepared to talk about this, so
The-
she.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the number that Tracy had previously sent at my request is that if he had received the same COLA increases that all employees received in 2022, 2023, and 2024, his current pay would have gone from 110 a year, which it still is, to today it would be $129,717.
Call it 130, right?
That was my
Yeah.
that was my thought. It was just call it 130 and then lock it to citywide COLA increases going forward. But that would be a contract. The COLA increase would be a contract thing. So we can just we could just 3 or more of us
Yeah.
could request to Miss Perry to add his pay increase to the budget.
That'd be
for the
about a
time being.
16% increase, is that correct?
Any other thoughts on?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Phillips about the contract is as is. Increase with COLA. Okay.
Okay.
But I don't know that it should be tied to the employees per se, because as city managers are hired, it's by that contract. But present moment, yeah.
So
Thank you.
is 130 what everybody's thinking, or did we want to discuss the market rate adjustment?
That's a jumping off point. Where are you at?
I would be, if we averaged the current salaries of the other, or that we're aware of the other city managers, like I said, it's between 132 and 144. So Signal Mountain city manager, like Stephanie said, is 135. So if we're talking about a market rate adjustment as opposed to a pure COLA adjustment, 135 would all seem fair. But I'm not gonna, rock the boat over $5,000 one way or the other. I just wanted to present the options to the commission here. Any thoughts?
Hayes?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of in line with the portion of what I was thinking. I mean, not to get too like overly technical with it, but like look at those city managers' salaries in respect to the city's budget. Kind of gauge it from there. I think would be maybe a better approximation of where we should be.
Proportionally.
But, yeah. And I don't have any of that on hand, so I have no idea.
Okay. Well, we could. Any other thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, we are in budget season. This is time. If we're going to do it, then we need to kind of. And our city attorney isn't here, so I'm assuming this is just a work session. We're just talking, right?
Mhm.
But I would say that we need to put it in the budget. I mean, that's,
Any thoughts on 130 versus 135 for?
Well, I'm still on the COLA.
Okay. 130.
I mean, that's still 16%.
Okay. Then
Is it something that we could get, like Tracy could maybe get some numbers, like what Hayes was talking about, some comparisons from like salary to budget,
apples to apples.
And then we have open discussion next Tuesday of the 5 of us to talk about all of the budget things. So it's not like we have to decide this number
We can get into
today.
more details.
And along with that, how many employees are based per municipality compared to what
Like how many they have
employees they
under,
oversee.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like maybe just have, not like you're busy or anything.
While you're resting over there.
Wait, let me find my salary,
spreadsheet,
number of
right?
employees, budget.
And budget.
Total city budget and total number of city employees. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
And yeah, it sounds like if you could incorporate 130,000 salary for him for the time being, and then if we want to make
Which
further
would be a
adjustments,
$20,000
increase, yeah.
If we did 130 and then also apply the COLA, it'd be 139 when it's all said and done.
Or if Or was that the number like current?
Well, I'd have to sit down with Tracy and
Okay.
look at the
Yeah, well,
numbers, but it said 2024 has a proposed 3% COLA, and then that brought the total. So it would have gone from 110 in 2021. That was what it was. 2022 would have been 117,700. 2023 would have been 125,939. And then it says 2024 has a proposed 3% COLA, and that would bring the 125 to 129,717. So I think the 129 is after
I don't
this.
remember.
Yeah.
Do it.
I'm like, I'll let you look at
We'll
it.
let her run the numbers, then we can decide, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Circle back.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all are all at the superstars and take a lot of the load off of Martin, right?
Yeah.
It makes his job easier.
All right, so I'll just pencil in plus 20K for Martin's salary at the bottom of here, and then we can. I'm sure it will have other. I guess if we see FICA and retirement will probably be affected by that as well, so it'll be a little bit more than that. But we'll let you work that out, and then
And probably the longevity bonus.
yeah. And we
Is
can.
that something that you think you would be able to like get us that information before we meet on Tuesday?
I'll give it my best shot.
Okay. If you don't, it's okay. Because that meeting is open-ended, so we can just be here as long as we need to be here, I would think, to just talk about the whole
Picture.
the big picture. Yeah.
All right. That's all I had for the Finance and Administration Department. Does anybody else have any questions for Ms.
I'm
Perry?
complete.
Okay. So we have reached the time for citizen comments for items on this work session agenda. And Mr. Granum.
Thank you, Mayor. I left my cheat sheet.
You can ad-lib it.
This is the time for citizen comments. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes or less. And please address the commission as a whole. And given this is a workshop, I think it's reasonable to expect there may in fact be some back and forth. Please state your name and address and come forward.
Any comments for any items on this agenda? Okay. If there are no comments, then do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll do that.
We have a motion from Commissioner Phillips. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a second from Vice Mayor Dalton. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
All right.